Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Zero Bytes podcast. And as always, I got Jesse with me. Hey Jesse.
Hello, Steve.
Hey.
Episode 2, except it's episode 1 because we just did episode 0 last week.
It was the pilot. It went as terribly as any pilot would go, I guess.
I think we did okay.
Yeah,
All
I guess
things
so
considered,
too.
we did okay. We learned a lot.
We learned a lot. Hopefully, this time around, nothing goes awry.
We sure had fun getting set up for recording today, didn't we?
Yeah. And it was all my mistake, yes.
Oh
And-
no! Don't forget my microphone mount broke.
Yeah, that too.
Our video outputs broke. Your audio output broke on take 1.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll get through this one
Yeah,
together.
hopefully, and my ISP doesn't throttle me like last time. But today we got interesting subjects. The first one, I'm gonna give it to you, and it's all
Oh,
the
boy.
issues with OBS and nVidia. And just letting the users know that nVidia just released today, just now, for more problems, the latest nVidia driver 525.53. So here
Okay.
come the problems.
Well, so I think we're going to see a pair of problems because you're going to have streamers like myself who use NVENC, who use NVFBC. The
Yeah.
patch on GitHub, it's going to be probably at least a day to a few days, and that's fair before somebody figures out how to patch all that for the current version of OBS, which that's fine. What some people are probably going to do is hold at version 27.
Yeah, but if you're using
I-
the Flatpak, that's a little bit difficult.
Not as much
Not
as
impossible.
I thought it would be. Right,
Not im-
you can pin it at version 27 or whatever you like. But what's also going to happen? People using the Flatpak are going to have to rebuild the Flatpak NVENC and NVIDIA drivers.
Yeah, that is true.
So I do not know how much of a delay we're going to have, and I may actually have to do CPU based encoding while they sort that out.
Oh, ouch, that hurts.
I have a laptop with an i5, so it's probably going to be okay, but it won't be as good as it normally would.
Yeah, not if you had a Core i7 or Core i9, for sure.
Right. Now, one thing that I did do last week, and it got me through a few streams over on Twitch, was I did do the CPU-based encoding, and I think because my discrete GPU is what I boot up with,
Yeah.
I actually think that doing that saved the stream because it wasn't doing any game encoding, it wasn't doing anything, it was just sitting there. And it was just being dedicated to screen capture, and that's why it was probably fine.
Oh, okay.
So it was a rare case where I think having Optimus or 2 GPUs saved my ass.
Yeah. I think having two GPUs can be good
Especially if they are different vendors
Yeah.
when you have a driver issue like this.
Yeah, even on desktops, it's good to have two GPUs. I have two GPUs on the desktop downstairs in the store, but I disabled the Intel one, the integrated one, from the BIOS. So when I boot Zero Linux, it only detects one, so the AMD one basically, and I installed the driver just for the AMD, and everything is fine. I never, God forbid, attempted OBS on that machine. Maybe for some reason it would see the Intel.
That means we're going to have to test it so we can talk about it.
Oh yeah, for sure. But
you have brought this on yourself.
Yeah, but thankfully on this system today, I haven't installed the latest NVIDIA drivers. I'm hoping, crossing my fingers, as I do every time I install the latest NVIDIA drivers, and hope everything goes well. But so far, ever since I started using Linux, I haven't had any issues like everybody else because I'm not a streamer. I don't stream. And
Right.
like you told me, streaming is handled completely differently from recording.
Right. Recording, you're going to have a lot fewer issues.
Good thing I chose to record the podcast, not go live.
Well, I mean, I think that hopefully, after a few more episodes, we can do it live when we get the system
With
rolling. Who
nVidia,
knows?
with nVidia,
You
I'm
don't
having
trust
second
them enough
thoughts.
to go live. Yeah, okay, fair.
But
It's really a pain point for me as a streamer.
yeah,
I have to start my pre-show checklist generally about 2 hours before I want to start streaming, because it gives me time to configure backup GPUs. And it's really frustrating wondering every time I get ready to start a stream, is the nVidia NVENC driver going to fight with OBS?
oh, it always does. We know that for a
And
fact.
I've had varying different levels of success. Sometimes closing and restarting OBS is enough.
Yeah,
Sometimes switching from the Flatpak to the Arch package is enough. And this is why I keep two different versions of OBS, because the Flatpak is using the Flatpak driver, whereas the Arch package is using whatever the hell the latest nVidia driver is.
yeah, because it's a bleeding edge distro, as we all know.
Yeah.
As soon as a new NVIDIA driver lands, they have to have it. But
Right.
lately, I discovered that Arch is not really like for GNOME 43, for example. It was released.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Arch didn't push it to their mainline repository, public repositories, until what, 3-4 weeks later, 5 weeks later.
That's a Manjaro move.
Yeah, that's a Manjaro move. I was really surprised, and when it landed at version 43.1-1.
That's weird.
Yeah,
That's not like what I would expect from pure vanilla Arch.
exactly. So I'm showing the users the page where, and if you're listening to the audio version, I'm just showing the article where it says nVidia 525.53 Linux driver brings dynamic boost for AMD laptops. Huh? Installer enhancement? What?
Oh, they're probably talking for the AMD CPUs, not GPUs.
Oh, CPUs. Okay. Well, I have an AMD CPU, so I'm part of those people. It says here, nVidia has made available their first public beta R525. Beta. It's a beta driver. It's not yet public.
Okay.
NVIDIA 525.53 beta is out this morning as a new feature update. But proprietary package Linux driver, the NVIDIA Linux adds support for dynamic boost on NVIDIA graphics notebooks with AMD CPUs, support for the Mesa platform surfaceless extension. Don't know what that is.
Okay, so that's going to probably affect Nouveau users.
Yeah. And there was
when
news
they mentioned VESA, that's NVIDIA's implementation. Nouveau is VESA, right?
Yeah, for the open kernel modules, updated NVIDIA installer handling support for over-the-air updates.
Oh boy.
Uh-oh.
So we're running our graphics cards like our Android phones and doing over-the-air updates. Holy cow.
In the Proton and the NVIDIA NGX build, the new CUDA debugger implementation and various bug fixes.
Okay, Proton's good. I'll see some improvements there, hopefully, with Steam Gaming.
Hopefully it's well, good thing it's beta right now, so we won't be getting it immediately.
Well, let me ask you about that, because you're still using the TKG driver, right?
And those are not
and
beta.
They don't pull from beta?
No, they include the way they build their scripts. Let me see. I'm gonna show it on screen.
Cool. Because I feel like some of the beta features occasionally sneak into the TKG builds.
In their script, yes, but you have the choice if you want to build them or not.
Okay.
I'm going to show the users. I'm browsing the my and NVIDIA all. There it is. This is the TKG driver. When you do make PKG to build the NVIDIA drivers, they are presented, what driver version do you want? They ask, they prompt the user.
That's really cool.
So they did. I didn't git pull the latest changes yet. I'm too afraid to do that. I'll do it later offline. But it gives them, number one, Vulkan dev, so 515.49. This is an implementation with the Vulkan API stuff in it included.
Right.
520 series, which is the latest 520, which is 520.56. And then backwards, 515, 510, 495, 470, and older. You select which version of the driver you want to build, and that's what I do. For Zero Linux, on the repositories, I build the 520, the 470, and the 390.
Yeah, it covers most of the hardware.
Most of the it goes from the 500 series all the way to the current ones. Anything older than that, users have to stick to Nouveau. Like I had a user one time come to me and he says, "I have the GT210."
Is that a Kepler card? I remember?
No, way before that. That's a 20 before the, I think 2008, 2010. Something like that.
That would be pre-Kepler, I think.
Yeah, it's way
I'm
before.
out of date on my architecture names.
I forgot what architecture I was using, but it's very old. For that graphic card, they have to stick to Nouveau.
Oh, wow. I know.
There are no proprietary drivers.
In the laptop that I'm streaming from with you, I'm using a 1650 Ti, that's Turing.
Yeah, that's is it Turing?
It's identified under Zero as Turing. Let me pull my system settings here.
1650 Ti.
Oh wow! Now I get Vulkan info. I get Window Manager for KWin support. Lots of log files available through KDE Info Center. So thank you for having KDE as the default. Because seriously, a lot of the window managers don't give information that's that verbose.
No,
this is as good. This is very, very good. If I have to talk to Dell for support, I have all of my information without digging around.
Yep. This one is Turing. Yes, correct.
Yep.
It is Turing. Well, that means you can use the latest drivers no matter what they are. Like me, I'm on the
until nVidia decides in their infinite wisdom,
of course,
to drop support for the card.
I'll be dropped before you because I'm the 10 series. You're the 16 series, basically.
Right, but what's the latest model right now?
It's Turing.
No, the latest.
So 4090.
Right. So we're
on the cusp of being dropped.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But as far as OBS goes, for me, at least for recording, it has never given me any issues. I'm knock on wood. But
yeah, OBS is pretty solid, except where it's not.
Yeah, especially when you want to go live.
Right. Well, look, for free open source software, we really have no right to complain. People are doing this in their own time, just like you building your distro.
Yep.
Because it is a distro, Steve. It is. And we should talk about that.
What makes a distro a distro? This is the other subject we want to talk about. We're not going to delve too deep into the subject, but just suffice it to say that there's a lot of videos online that complain about there being a lot of too many distros out there in the wild, and some people putting a skin on top of a desktop environment or a window manager and calling it a distro, which is not, which shouldn't be correct, because to me, what a distro is, what makes a distro is something big. Like if I consider Red Hat a distro, Fedora a distro. I consider Debian a distro. Arch Linux, plain Arch with a TTY with nothing on top, a distro, yes. But as soon as we start skinning anything that exists, like we take Fedora, we slap KDE on top of it, and we slap our own configurations on top. To me personally, at least, in my opinion, it doesn't make it a distro. It doesn't
What
do
about
enough
something
different to be called a distro.
Okay, so with that example, are you hinting at a certain gaming distro?
Nobara, no.
Because I think that Nobara is a distro.
Nobara,
It's not
it's closer to becoming a distro than not being a distro, because it does enough differently to call itself a distro, yes. But calling Manjaro a distro, for example,
I think it is because it's deviated a lot from
some people
TTY
think it
Arch.
is. Yeah, some people think it is, others don't. I think it is because it does enough differently, because it's not
Right.
Arch. It can't be
Right.
called Arch because it doesn't use the Arch repositories.
It's an Arch base.
Arch-like distribution. They give the AU access to the AUR, which is amazing. But the problem with Manjaro is they shouldn't give access to the AUR, because if they do, out of sync problems will happen, and all the issues.
And it did. That definitely happened, and that's how I wound up searching for. I went through Garuda. I went from Garuda to 0, and I haven't left.
Yeah. Well, the way I don't consider myself a distro per se, Zero Linux a distro, because it doesn't do enough to be called a distro. It's just I have my idea of how things should be, because Zero Linux is just for me. I'm just sharing it with the people who share the same ideology. You shouldn't have everything on slapped on top of anything, because that will cause issues like, for example, Garuda, as you mentioned earlier.
Right.
Slapping everything and calling it a day does not make a distro a distro. It makes it a bloated thing.
Okay, I can see your point, but like here is where I would draw a line. For example, like you have Ubuntu, which is a distro,
Correct.
separate from Debian.
Yeah.
Now, if you start thinking of all of the variants, Kubuntu, Ubuntu Studio, Xubuntu, Ubuntu Budgie, Ubuntu Mate,
all the ontus.
Right. I don't think of them all as separate distros. I treat them as when you see Fedora spins, it's the same kind of idea.
Spins.
It's still Fedora. It is just
a spin.
It's not a distro.
It's a spin.
Ubuntu is the distro, and you're just choosing a feature set.
I see where you're going with this. Zero Linux can be called a distro because it's not a spin on anything.
Right.
It
own stands thing. Apart on its own enough.
And I would like to announce to everyone, you heard it here first, the monthly ISOs will be coming back. There will be a new version every month, because Zero Linux has reached a point where there's no need to wait 3 months. It's going to be iterative updates every month, with every now and again a few features injected every now and again. And another piece of good news, where we are now completely independent. We no longer rely on ALCI build scripts. I consider myself knowledgeable enough now and confident to graduate Eric Dubois' class, Arco Linux class, and thanks to a team member of Zero Linux, who has created a script back and forth with me that allowed us to go fully independent. It's called ABS. ABS, it stands for Arch Build Script, but it doesn't rely on Arch. It's just a completely rewritten from the ground up, fully verbose and interactive script that we will allow anybody who wants to build Zero Linux to get all the updates in before whenever they want, basically. It's a neat little script. But now we have graduated. Yay!
All right. Very
So
cool. Very cool.
it's all in-house, and you will be able to build Zero Linux whenever you want, however you and modify it later on to your heart's content.
Does that mean I can bastardize it and build GNOME in there, even though it's not officially supported?
You can do whatever you want. You can add no. And here's the thing: there is a GNOME edition of Zero Linux that I'm working on behind the scenes, just for me, not for. It will never see the light of day for publicly. It's just for me to be able to keep up with the GNOME desktop environment, see all their changes. Like now they released GNOME 43. And I wanted to test it. I wanted to see what's so different. And to me, personally, it didn't change enough to make it usable by me. It's still
a lot of features
Apple.
feel like they're going backwards.
Not necessarily. It's just they're still going the same on the same yellow brick road, their own version of the yellow brick road, and which is
GNOME
leading.
Is GNOME, and they do what GNOME does.
Yeah, it's limited. It's very limiting to me. I am a tinker. I'm a tweaker. I cannot use something that has a lot of constraints. For example,
That's fair.
The Nautilus file manager that they use. If I tell you what they did, you're gonna laugh. If you don't have console in version 43.0, if you didn't have console installed, the new console with a C, not a K, like KDE, if you don't have it, you didn't have it installed because as builders, we choose what we want to include on the ISO. So I chose not to include console because there are no settings for console. Literally no settings. You click the three dots, all you get is dark mode, light mode. That's it. So
console is not GNOME-terminal.
No, it is not. It is something totally new. But in the beginning, when they first released 43.0, if you didn't have console, you wouldn't have the context menu entry to open console in any folder. It would disappear.
So
you couldn't open console anywhere. You had you had to include.
Did you have to do it in a TTY or a terminal elsewhere?
You had to Control-Alt-T, open terminal, and CD into the directory, and then do your work manually.
I mean, I guess we could have snuck it in with an F12 and then
there's F12. You can F12. There's no drop-down menu in the drop-down terminal in GNOME. So
okay, see, you've gotten me spoiled with it in KDE.
I use it a lot to update the system. I let it update it's in Yakuake, and I do my work in the other window. But now they fixed it.
Yakuake is a lot of fun, so thank you for that.
Yeah, I thank KDE for that because it's their thing. I just included it, but now they fixed it with GNOME 43.1-1. They fixed it. They added it back, and now it opens. If you have GNOME Terminal installed, which I have, it opens GNOME Terminal like it used to.
Okay.
But I use a fork of GNOME Terminal that is called GNOME Terminal with dash transparency, which includes transparency.
It's
because
the best
they
one,
had it, they removed it. Well, that's the problem with GNOME. They add something, they remove it. They add it, they remove it again. So we had to use a lot of AUR tweaks to add in stuff that were there in GNOME 40. Like open as admin, open as root, a folder as root. They removed it, so we had to use a tweak to add it back. So a lot of this stuff is really getting annoying. A lot of these annoyances, if they were just a couple, okay, you can live with them. You can tinker your way around them. But this annoyance, with this annoyance, with this annoyance, with this annoyance, it becomes a lot. So
you're not wrong.
It became frustrating.
This is why you can make your own distro and why we should keep having more and more distros, even with feature overlap.
Yeah, this is what I did. The version of GNOME that I'm building for myself has all these tweaks pre-included, no extensions. I will never include extensions because, as we all know, this is the stigma around GNOME. Extensions break not break. I'm not going to use break. Become outdated quickly. And having to wait, if you use a lot of extensions, especially obscure ones,
right,
they become outdated and they will take a long time to get updated to work with the latest and greatest of GNOME version of GNOME.
That's fair. I get that.
We cannot say they break and breaks the system. It doesn't break the system. Just the extensions will no longer work until they get updated.
Annoyance.
It's a minor annoyance. That's why I'm doing my best not to rely on extensions. But in most cases, this is the contradiction in GNOME: is they tell you GNOME was never made to be used with extensions, but to be able to reach a certain level of freedom, you have no other choice but to rely on extensions. So, so GNOME is not the type of desktop environment that is made for everyone. I would think that GNOME is more targeted. This is just my opinion. I'm not saying it's a general thing, but it's more targeted for people switching to Linux from Mac. Because it's so similar.
I think so. And by extension, pun intended, the Budgie desktop.
More freedom with GTK.
Yeah. I think that Budgie does a little bit better of being customizable than GNOME does, but it pulls from a lot of GNOME libraries.
Yes, and they use and now there's a lot of talk around the implementation. When will they adopt the libadwaita and GTK4 for Budgie?
Mm-hmm.
But they can choose never to move, not never, but take their time before they move, because they have their own implementation, and to migrate their own implementation to GTK4 and libadwaita, it will take some time. Don't bash something because they're taking their sweet time. Linux takes
They're trying to do it right.
This is what I'm saying. Working on Linux is not something that will happen in 24 hours. Developers
sometimes it does.
If there are small tweaks, yes. But if it's a full desktop environment with a full different implementation, it takes a while. So be patient and...
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And wait for it. And once it comes, I am one of the few people between the group that I know that is patient, and I wait for something to come out because I know developers are taking their time. They're making sure no bugs are slip through the cracks, per se. So yeah, I'm kind of. That's why I think I like Manjaro so much. I don't like their philosophies from the higher ups. Yes,
sure.
They did their own, and they cannot update their SSL certificates.
Right.
And all that.
If you like the philosophy, you'd still be playing with Manjaro and not making Zero Linux.
But I like the fact that they hold packages back. But
not as far as Debian does. For Debian stable,
no. This is
not
too
that
much.
far.
No, that's too much. But for example, I'll just give a simple example. Remember the grub issue? They're still on grub pre-git, meaning they're still on a stable version of grub before they update it to the git commits, which we are still on to this day. We are still on the git on Arch. They're still up. Arch is still pushing the git version instead of a stable version. Whereas
that was an embarrassing time for grub.
Yeah. Really embarrassing. It's better now, but it's still...
And also for Arch, honestly, everybody that was Arch-based, YouTube is full of videos where we all just got very, very pissed off.
Correct, but we as maintainers have implemented so many fixes now that it's a non-issue now.
Sure.
But Manjaro don't need to implement any fixes and workarounds because they decided to stick to the stable version pre-git. So they don't need to worry about anything. They will wait until the next stable version, which is coming in this next month, apparently, and they're jumping 6 versions ahead. 2.06 that we're going to go to 2.1 or something. But they're jumping multiple versions ahead, and it's going to become stable. So on Arch, because ZeroNix does not hold back packages like everybody else, so we get what is available on Arch, on the mainline Arch repositories. And that one is the latest and greatest, to the latest Git commit. Whereas Manjaro, since they control all the packages, they can control which version they ship to the public.
Right.
So they're shipping a pre-Git version, which is stable, no issues. They never seen the issue. All the Manjaro users never saw that issue. So, yeah. Different distros do things differently, but don't you hate a distro that calls itself a distro that gives you hey, there you go, vanilla GNOME, vanilla KDE, vanilla XFCE. Those are not distros. They didn't do anything. They just
we don't hate anything over here.
No, we don't hate, but I mean, what don't you hate it? Don't you find it frustrating? I mean, when I say hate, I mean, don't you find it frustrating when a distro calls itself a distro just by giving you a vanilla of whatever?
Not so much, and that's because, like me, in the alternative Android ROMs, you have to go to the Android equivalent of a distro if you want vanilla Android. You have to get a distro that way because, OnePlus, you're getting skinned on top with Oxygen OS. Let me think. Samsung with, Samsung Experience. That's not vanilla Android. So you have to reach out to what would be a distro for Android and get these custom ROMs just to take all of that extra bloat away. So I think sometimes it's appropriate for a distro to offer vanilla, because if you're not getting it, you have a right to get it. But if they haven't actually done anything in and of itself, I can see your point that it's not a distro. It's a collection of packages.
If they didn't do anything, that's what I meant. If they didn't do anything at all, they just gave you just pure vanilla whatever, desktop environment or whatever. No configuration, zero anything. No different wallpaper, no different anything.
Okay. Yeah.
But there are some exceptions. There are some exceptions like KDE Neon. KDE Neon because it's the flagship of KDE.
Have you ever used it?
Yes. They have the bleeding edge version of KDE because they got 3 multiple editions. You got the user edition, you got the a little bit more advanced, and the developer edition.
Right.
Developer edition, you get the Git version of KDE, where you get to the latest version, to the latest commit. So this is a distro, yes, because this is KDE's way to give you their latest and greatest packages. But mainly, in general, when somebody says, hey, this is called, for example, Tunto Arch. Let's say Tunto Arch, just on my top of my head. Tunto Arch, and what that is they give you vanilla KDE, vanilla XFCE, vanilla GNOME, vanilla whatever. That's not a distro. This is something users can do without downloading the thing. This is
right. I guess they're trying to make DEs available to
the masses
newbies.
easier without.
But I don't think a newbie user is going to have a good time with vanilla Arch in any form.
That's true.
Because it's bad, but most people wind up on Arch because they want to squeeze every bit of performance and customization that they can out of their system.
Yeah, true. Like for me, I was thinking when I first started using Linux, I was using Manjaro, but I quickly wanted a vanilla version of KDE. I was like, I want vanilla KDE and I want to shape it up my way. I want to customize it my way. And then I thought to myself, I need to build this because downloading a so-called distro with just vanilla KDE is not a distro, and they might have included things that I don't know about hidden somewhere. So I didn't want that. So I built my own. This is how Zero Linux started. I built it with nothing on it, just vanilla KDE. And that's how I started configuring slowly KDE. I was like, hey, if I can build vanilla KDE, what if I built it with my tweaks already applied? So I don't have to reapply everything every time I install the system. So
Right. In a way, Zero Linux is just you saving snapshots that you can work from.
exactly. But what I call vanilla these days in my head, vanilla is not the vanilla desktop environment, is a customized desktop environment with no applications pre-installed. I took it from back in I took the idea from back in the day when I used to customize Windows.
Oh boy.
Yeah, include applications on the pre-installed applications on the ISO scripts and stuff like that, which was wrong because it was illegal, against, or not illegal, but against Microsoft's wishes.
Right.
So
So I have a request someday if we want to have a live stream where we're just goofing off.
yeah,
I would love to just have a day where we screwed around with X11 on Windows because you can do it.
I'll have to look into that. I don't know.
You can run X11 on Windows. You can run X11 on Mac OS. I think you can run X11 on BSD, but don't quote me on that. I'm not sure. And it would just imagine trying to do some of the things we're doing on top of X11 with all the headache that's already present in Windows.
Uh-oh, that's a bad time right there.
But yeah.
But yeah, it's a good idea. We'll goof around, see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, to close this topic out, maybe Zero Linux is a distro. I don't know, but some people
tell us in the comments. Do you think you guys using Zero Linux? Do you think it's a distro?
Yeah, why not? Light up the comments, guys. Let us know.
Good, bad.
Yeah,
just go for it. Tell us.
Yeah, tell us. Is it a full-fledged distro, or is it just a skin on top of a skin on top of a skin? Let us know. Which brings me to the next subject, which is scripting. I discovered recently that scripting made my life easier. A hell of a lot easier than it used to be when I first started using Linux. I created.
Are you specifically mentioning Bash scripting here?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. It's the easy scripting, the lazy scripting, Bash scripts, and turning them into YAD. Like if you check the channel, I made videos on how you can give your scripts a GUI, a user interface, instead of having to run a plain Bash script. You can give them a GUI with buttons. You just click the button, it does it runs whatever script is behind it.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah, that's what I do. I create a lot of YAD UIs for all my scripts, but like when I do a fresh install of any operating system, they're all based on Arch. I don't use anything but Arch. For a tinkerer like me, I have to have things go wrong, because otherwise I'm not going to learn anything. And the reason
Steve, if you didn't have problems to solve, you'd be so bored.
Exactly.
I think if Arch didn't throw you a curveball, sometimes you'd get bored.
Of course. That's why I love Arch, because it keeps throwing curveballs at us and allowing me to learn. Like now I'm testing GNOME, not because I want to test.
You had a stable system that did exactly what you want. It's like, let me see what happens if I do this thing that I don't even want to do.
Exactly. And I broke it multiple times trying to test those, to bring back features that were there, but they decided to remove for whatever reason. Yeah, I broke the system multiple times. I didn't.
How did scripting play a factor in testing GNOME?
it's not specific. It's not desktop environment specific. It's Linux specific as a whole. Whatever.
Were you using bash scripts to get you back up and going when you
Yeah.
would retest?
Yeah. For everything, any desktop environment I use on Arch, I have bash scripts that will install my drivers, that will install all the applications that I use, be it from repos or Flatpaks, and it will apply my my theming, and as everybody knows by now, I'm a big fan of the lay-in theme.
Yes.
I will forever be. There is, and God knows I've tested over 1,000 themes. I still am in love.
I don't like Breeze. I'm sorry, I just don't. Breeze does not do it.
No. Breeze is good for those who like no customization, basically.
Right.
Breeze is what it is. It's even Breeze Dark, for me, it looks too flat, too cornery. And now, according to the latest video from Nicolo, he's doing a great job, by the way. He added rounded corners finally to Breeze, and he gave his floating panel rounded edges. So finally he did that. The way he did it, he admits, is not the greatest of ways of implementations. He calls it a hack. But until further notice, that's the only way he knows how to implement it. But anyway, good props for his efforts. But still, Breeze is not for me. I don't hate it. It's not for me. I like transparency a lot, and I like purple a lot.
Yes, you do.
If you haven't, in case you haven't noticed yet, from all the versions of Zero Linux. So I love the lay-in theme. So what I did was I created a script that will. It's a different implementation. It's a script that prompts me. I like prompts a lot. I don't know why, especially bash prompts. Just select the option you want, and it will do whatever you select. I do that a lot. But it prompts me, which version of lay-in do you want to apply, the GNOME or the KDE version, or the RICE, I mean. You want to implement the GNOME or the KDE version? I select GNOME, it applies the GNOME version, and it's all done quickly, in 5 seconds. Instead of having me copy, paste, git clone this, and then run that script and do this and do that. It just, one click, does everything. Did that for the drive.
That's okay. That's absolutely fine.
Scripting is the best thing since sliced bread for me. Bash scripting. And everything I do, since I install multiple times in VMs, of course. My desktop, I've been using the same install of Zero Linux since May. So that tells you, that should tell you a little bit that it can be stable if you're using it right. So all issues that users might encounter, like the past few days, a lot of users came to me. I have problems with my headset, the Razer, whatever, the Corsair thingy-o-majig. I was like, I don't have the hardware. Sorry. You tell me you're having issues with a certain piece of hardware, can't help. But it's just to say, it's another way of saying is Zero Linux, being a hobby distro, a way for me to learn, issue resolution is not guaranteed. It's not a guaranteed thing. It never is.
But you do a lot of work, you know.
When I can, when I have time, yeah. But if I don't have the hardware, even if I have time, how can I test?
Right, of course.
But scripting, what I'm saying is, it's not only for us distro maintainers. You can learn Bash. I'm talking to the users here. You can create your own scripts. It's super easy. It's like human understandable language. You can tell it to install whatever packages. You just run the script. And if you watch my videos, the 2 videos or 3 videos I made around the subject, once you have your script done, you back them up on your GitHub, you back them up on a separate USB drive, whatever. You can have it do things for you in a few minutes that would have otherwise taken you an hour or two to do.
Right. I could actually see combining scripting with workspaces, how we were talking about in last week's episode.
Yeah.
Use the scripting to create workspaces that were configured with my themes, my apps, my
Yeah, you
things
can
like
automate
that.
anything and everything. If you know how to do one thing, you can script it. It's automatically, because to me everything, even binaries, even like binaries, what are binaries? Binaries are nothing but scripts.
Right. Like
So
if I could see making myself almost a few scripts that would turn vanilla 0, if you want to call it that,
okay,
into, Jesse's streaming edition
yeah,
of 0. So I'll have, sets up OBS, patches the NVIDIA drivers,
yeah,
does all these things that, if I have to do a reinstall, I run these scripts on top of a Pacman SYU,
yeah,
and I'm good to go.
yeah. This is everything. At the end of the day, are scripts. Everything is a script.
Sure. It's just whether you want to click a button or type a few commands.
Yeah,
You're
if you
still
know the
running a
commands,
script.
if you know the commands from the top of your head, paste them into a
Then
script.
you can script it.
You can script it and launch the script and let it do its thing without you having to waste time typing the commands and piping this to that. And just do it once, save the script, and run it whenever you wish. Scripting is very important. For me, it's an essential part of using Linux as a whole.
Yeah.
And
I think a lot of users would agree with you.
yeah, and like for me, if I created my script, for example, to use Pacman as a backend, as a package manager, you can just as easily replace Pacman SYU with apt install.
Please don't do that to Arch.
No, I'm not saying do it to Arch, but I'm saying if you want to, if you're using Debian, for example,
sure.
You can create it for Debian, and if you want to use it on Fedora, you can replace Pacman with DNF. It's not very difficult. So
no, because the processes stay the same. It's just the commands that change.
Yeah. So scripting is essential. People learn how to script and see how it's going to change your lives. It's very important. You're going to be happy, trust me, and you're gonna thank me. Which brings us to the biggest topic of this episode, and I know Jesse has his own opinion on that.
Let me get comfortable here. Let me get comfortable. Finish up my my coffee here because you're coming for me.
What do you think about this mass migration from Twitter to Mastodon?
I think that it's going to be a lot of shuffling back and forth. I do not think that this $8 verification thing is going to stick because it has instantly turned it into a nightmare for Elon Musk. Like everything that he's tried to do it's bad PR. It's a bad user experience. He has again made himself the laughing stock of the tech world with this move. It's a bad move. And it feels like an attempt to control people's bad opinions of what he's doing and nothing more. It's a move to silence people because he doesn't like being made fun of. And all it's doing is getting him made fun of.
Yes, exactly. And especially when one day he says, I'm gonna, to get the check mark and edit button, you will pay $8. Then he says, I'm gonna put the entire Twitter behind a paywall. If you want to join Twitter, you have to pay. And then he goes,
just people are gonna leave.
Yeah, and then he reverts.
It's a mass exodus that he got a natural reaction to doing things with, unilateral power. You can see that, he's not consulting his board. It doesn't look like he does not appear to be taking anyone's opinion except his own right to the mouthpiece that's Twitter. And we've seen other figureheads do the same thing to much ridicule. And that I will just leave it there. And if you know, you know.
Yeah,
When
and
people don't stop you from tweeting,
yeah, exactly.
you say stupid things and people laugh at you.
No, and the weird part is somebody tweeted at me, sent me a retweet from Elon Musk, where he said Twitter is has received more registrations than ever before. This is wrong. That's a lie. Number one, it's the opposite that's happening. It lost a lot of people, but this is his way of trying to put a positive spin, a fake positive spin.
I think there have been more troll account registrations.
Maybe. But I'm showing the users an article here where it says Mastodon gained in the past, since October 28th, over 70,000 new subscribers on the different.
Wow. And yeah, at the time of this recording, it is November 10th.
Yeah. So it's
what was the date of the article you're displaying? I can't see it right now.
It's the November 3rd.
Okay. So 70,000, and that's not even taking into account the week that happened between that article and today's podcast.
Yes, correct. And that caused, at least the instance I'm a member of, Mastodon, for the free open source movement, they caused Mastodon to close new registrations for a while to migrate
just to mitigate the load on the servers. I'm sure.
They moved servers. They completely moved servers, and at some point the timeline got emptied out because the database was being migrated. We lost 4 hours of connection on Mastodon during the migration. So I was like, wow. I don't want to tweet because Twitter is a cesspool right now. Always has been. So when I moved to Mastodon, I've been a member of Mastodon since 2021.
Right.
And I was reluctant from completely moving to that instance because Twitter has the likes of Linus Tech Tips and the likes. Right. Those are never going to move to Mastodon. They're Twitter and...
No, I don't think so. He's too big. He's too big to move like that.
Yeah, and his whole monetization comes from Twitter. Him and MKBHD.
And YouTube. And YouTube. A lot of YouTube for Linus. I'd love to meet him someday and just pick his brain.
Same here. He's a hardware guy, and I'm a hardware guy. We would understand each other.
And I think he's a kindred spirit.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to swear here, and if you have to edit this out, then so be it. But he absolutely embodies the spirit in most of his videos of let's fuck around and find out.
Yeah. I love that.
I love that about him.
Yeah, same here.
He's never going to be gone from Twitter.
No.
I could see him joining Mastodon or Mastodon to further his reach or cast a wider net, but he's never going to walk away from his bread and butter, and I wouldn't blame him.
Same here. I wouldn't blame him. That's why I can't leave Twitter completely. I was reluctant for good reason, because a lot of my news outlets are on Twitter, not on Mastodon. Mastodon is my Linux site. It's where I talk to the free open source people. And here's the thing. Since I'm a Linux user and I make Linux videos and I have my Linux distro, I get more boosts, as they call them. It's Mastodon's version of retweets.
Okay. Yeah.
So I get a lot of boosts, more boosts on Mastodon than I ever get on Twitter, retweets on Twitter.
Well, sure, because it's a bit of an echo chamber.
Yeah.
People are interested in what you're doing because they do what you're doing.
Yeah, Twitter doesn't. It's so spread out that I won't reach as many people of the free open source movement. I'm part of the free open source movement, so
of course, yeah,
they're gonna see him, and and there's one thing that Tech Hut said in one of his posts on Mastodon on Mastodon is that nobody's how the hell are people going to how are people supposed to take Mastodon seriously if the tweet button is called toot? And I agree with that 100%. How are people supposed to take it seriously if the button is called toot? T-O-O-T.
Oh boy. If the audio only listeners could see the expression on my face right now.
It's called toot.
Okay. So I completely agree. I think that, yeah, that's just, wow. No.
I swear to God.
I was trying to withhold comment until I could form it, and I'm laughing so hard that I might get to the end of the podcast and just have to message you offline about what I was trying to say. It's gone. It's gone. The thought has left my brain, and it's all replaced with laughing. I don't think anybody wants us to toot at them.
No, and the best part is we have a village song here. It goes toot toot Beirut. So toot toot to Beirut. It reminded me of that song.
Oh wow.
It's hilarious. How are people supposed to take it seriously?
Sure. Yeah,
I think they at some point they're gonna change the button to something.
I think it could only help their branding, Steve, if they change that to almost anything else.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I forgot the password. I wanted to log into Mastodon to show it to the users, but I forgot the password.
Maybe just this might make a good thumbnail. Just the toot button.
Yeah, I'll just use it on the thumbnail. But to close up this podcast, this was a great episode.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. Just people, be careful. If you see the update to the latest NVIDIA driver, don't update. It's a beta. It's a beta. I'll link to the article in the show notes. But
I'm gonna have to test it, and you'll hear my thoughts very quickly.
Yeah, well, since you are on Zero Linux, I'm not gonna be pushing them, so you won't be getting them unless you get them from someplace else.
Well, I'm gonna probably have to rebuild the Flatpak NVIDIA drivers for OBS.
I don't think they include the betas.
Well, I will find out, and what I know, you will know.
All right.
So I'll see you on Discord. I'll see you on the forums.
Right.
What are you using this week? What are your top threes?
My top threes today are Vivaldi, and I know people are gonna hate on me for that because it's a proprietary browser, which it isn't. I don't understand this. It's not proprietary. The only part of it that is proprietary is the user interface. Other than that, everything underneath that is open source. And if you don't believe me, I'll link to an article in the show notes that will prove it to you. But if one small part of something is proprietary makes it completely proprietary, to everyone their opinion.
And I guess technically it would be then.
Yeah, it's an opinion kind of thing.
Sure.
I've been using Vivaldi for over 15 years. And 15 years, no, since 2017. I don't know how that long. But I've been using it ever since. And it is a desktop environment all on its own because it's got so many damn features.
That's cool.
I love it. There's nothing I need that isn't there. And I'm using Meld. Meld is a differential file comparison application that compares two files. Okay. It's not launching, so thank you.
Okay.
But you select two folders, for example. You select two files, and you can compare them. So I'm gonna show it here. Okay, 1 second. Make it full screen. And all right. So you select a file here. If you want to compare two files, you click File. You click the first one, and you click the second one, and you click Compare. And it will compare the two files. Well, those empty files. But anyway, you get the idea. The left one compares to the right one, or vice versa. And you can compare folder contents and stuff like that. This is a very essential tool, especially when you're working on a distro or on scripts.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That sounds like you're using that almost daily, if not
it's
all
daily all day, because, and especially every month when Arch releases a new version, updates Arch ISO, the tool that we use to build the ISO. We need to check out what the latest changes are and apply them to our own profile. Some changes I don't agree with, so I skip from applying them to. It's a pick and choose kind of thing.
Sure.
But it allows us to see the differences, and in the end, we pick which ones we want to apply, which ones we don't. It's an essential tool for me. And Ferdium, like, I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but Ferdium will...
You did, and it actually got me to start exploring it, and
yeah,
I'll talk about that in a moment.
Yeah, Ferdium, like I said, it's an all-in-one social media tool instead of having a million windows all over the place. So those are my three tools. I think Ferdium is going to stick in the most used three apps. But Vivaldi, Meld, Ferdium, and let me know in the comments which one do you use, which do you agree with, which you don't agree with. What do you use? What have you used, Jesse?
I haven't really changed a lot from last week. Most of what I've done, actually, believe it or not, has been in Chrome because I'm sending so many emails this week. I'm still handling the situation from last week, emailing everybody.
So you use Chrome?
I do use Chrome because it syncs very well with Gmail, which I wish I had a way out of that. And if you have a suggestion, I'm open to it. But what I have been using a lot this week is KDE Connect.
Oh,
I love KDE Connect, and it's helping me move away from Chrome because I'm getting that the synchronization between my Android and my.
So you had success with KDE
Linux.
Connect on Zero Linux. So
I do. I do have very good success with it. It's replaced a lot of the things that I've been doing because I basically get AirDrop functionality more or less.
Yeah.
I've had to. I take a lot of pictures, with my phone daily. If I'm out doing deliveries or whatever, I have to take pictures of the delivery, and it's helping me sort of just keep a local archive instead of burying my Google Drive with pictures and videos that I will most likely never see again. I'm keeping my Google Drive for what I'm doing with you on Zero Linux, for the videos that I'm making for my Snack Ops unit, Twitch streams, for my delivery content. I can keep that local because it's very, very unlikely that I'll have to prove a delivery that I made. And I don't want my Google Drive filling up with all of that.
And if in case nobody knew, KDE Connect also works with iOS now.
It does.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
I use it with my iPhone because I need to offload all the pictures, and because here's the thing with iOS, if in Lebanon, people, just as a context, people in Lebanon live their lives on their phones, and most people here have iOS devices. I don't know why, but they live their lives on iOS with Snapchat, with every social media client you can imagine, and they take pictures with all of these. I've had people come to me with over 150,000 pictures and
I believe that.
and 30,000 videos, and if you back them up to the cloud, there's a big problem with that. Even if you have 2 terabyte of storage on iCloud,
But the bandwidth to get it all up there.
it's
Good
not about
grief.
the bandwidth. It's now getting cheap enough to afford the bandwidth.
Well, that's true too.
But once you have everything on, let's say, photos, because everything goes to Photos, Apple Photos, or iPhotos, as people know it, you cannot download everything back. Once Apple owns it, it owns it. It's gonna make your life, turn your life into hell to restore everything. So
KDE Connect is a great tool. It really is.
Yeah. So what I recommend to my users is, if you use Linux, which I doubt, but to offload any picture they take the same day to their laptops or locally to their hard drive, external hard drive.
That way you have the original out of the hands of Apple or whoever else.
No, so you don't have any issues with having to download 150,000 pictures in bulk, because that'll be impossible. I used to work for an Apple retail store. Downloading all this in bulk, you always they only allow you 10 pictures or 100 pictures at a time, and doing that, and sometimes
it's so tedious.
And sometimes you reach a point where some pictures are stuck. They keep erroring out. You cannot transfer over to locally.
Right.
They get stuck on iCloud. So KDE Connect saves that. All those issues. So you just take a picture, take 100 pictures a day, come back home at night, offload them via KDE Connect to your local drive, and you're done. That's it.
Yeah.
Save yourself the headache. But anyway,
I use it for one other feature that I want to mention before I talk about my last in the top 3.
Okay.
But KDE Connect also has a similar function to Find My Device, because I have ADHD, and every day I misplace my phone a couple of times. And KDE Connect has a ring feature where it will call your phone from KDE Connect. As long as they're on the same network, it will ring your phone for you and help you find it. I use it a lot, and I'm still trying to see if it will match the same function as Find My Android, which will ring it even if you set it to silent, which I do all the time. I got it on silent right now while we're recording this podcast.
So that's a nice feature.
Yeah. If you misplace your phone and you use KDE Connect, you can use it to find it.
It's like if I misplace my iPhone, I ring it with my Apple Watch.
Yes.
So, I didn't know that the KDE Connect had that feature.
It's really cool. I do like that.
And what's your third one?
My third one, probably for this week, Discord. A lot of Discord.
Yeah, I use WebCord, but as we discovered today, it's less than ideal, because it lacks maybe 30-40% of Discord's features. Like, I cannot isolate a single user. I have to take me and myself and my guest all in the same frame. I cannot. Oh my God, this is. Yeah. I didn't know, but I'm having issues with Discord where I cannot make video or audio calls. It just doesn't route through. It just blocks.
Yeah, it seems like something's going on. Just hear me out if you haven't tried this already, Steve.
Okay.
And you're looking at a desktop version of Discord, as it were. Try Discord Canary and see if you get the same thing.
That's the beta channel.
Right. See if Discord Canary does better for you. I tend to have a better experience when I use it.
Okay. I'll test that.
Cool.
So
Yeah, but this was a fun episode.
yeah, thank you for as usual being an awesome co-host. Uh,
We make a good team, and it's all you. So
yeah.
thanks for having me.
And guys, don't forget to visit the podcast website. It's live. It's ready for you to browse to. It's bytes.zerolinux.xyz. And if you want to
Very cool to
toot,
have that up.
uh, hey, I forgot about that. Let me open it. .zerolinux.xyz. And all right.
Very, very cool. So we're still on Anchor, correct?
We're still on Anchor. I'm just having difficulties getting the Google version populated, but everything else is
Okay.
up.
So we're
And
on there. We're on Mastodon.
no, this one is. I'm going to be creating a Mastodon account soon. But this is the website for the podcast. We have all our social media links at the bottom. You got our
Very
YouTube, iTunes podcast for the audio version, Patreon. You can find us on Spotify. This is our Discord. You can also find us on Mastodon. I haven't linked it yet. This is our GitHub, Odyssey.
Thank you, Steve.
And before
if you guys are listening only, make sure to hop over to the YouTube and get the video experience that you might be missing out on.
Speaking of the YouTube, we now have our handle. We finally secured our handle. It's youtube.com/ZeroLinux.
So cool.
It's no longer Zero Linux official. It's @ZeroLinux. Just add the
That's great.
And closing out, thank you guys for listening and watching the. If you have reached this far,
we appreciate it. It matters a lot. It goes to supporting our channel and giving us a path towards monetizing.
The more people watch the entire episode, the sooner we get to our 4,000 hours before we can start monetizing the channel. And I did a big boo boo last week.
I wasn't gonna bring it up. Don't delete any more videos.
Yeah, as I mentioned to Jesse offline, but I deleted 3 of my videos. It took my watch hours away, so I'm back down to 900. I used to be at 1,500. So please help us reach the 4,000 hours, please. With that being said, let's talk about the fundraiser before we close out.
Oh, thank you for giving that a plug. My GoFundMe is still going, still navigating a few challenges with that. So I can't talk about the recent developments that have happened yet.
Okay.
I'll have to share that a little bit later, but we are getting some donations. Thank you guys who have donated or shared or whatever you've done. I start a new job Monday, so hopefully I won't have to be relying on the GoFundMe much longer. But we've gotten a few curveballs, and some of the help that the community offered was not accepted, and that's all I can say. So the GoFundMe is even more important this week than it was last week. But with the new job, hopefully it just won't be a thing going forward.
All right.
Thanks again for sharing that, Steve. I appreciate it.
No problem. And again, we still have our own fundraiser going. Still hasn't moved a single dime, but I'm hopeful. It's still up. It doesn't have an expiry date. If you guys, anyone can spare a few pennies to help Zero Linux project continue and this podcast going forward, help us keep the lights on, basically. That's all we need. More money, longer we can keep the lights on. That's
okay. Is that the warning bell?
No, that's not me.
Okay.
And recent development that I can share is we're getting 1 hour extra electricity a day.
That's very helpful for us.
It's helpful for the project, but we need more. So because now the project is growing and we have a lot more to do. So the more you donate, the longer we can keep the lights on.
Yeah.
With that, guys, thank you for watching, and hopefully we'll catch you next week at the same, not time because we don't have a specific time, but at the same day, on the same day.
Yeah.
So take care, guys. God bless, and be safe.
Have a wonderful day, everybody. See you next time.
See you next time.